Hey everyone, Tori here, and welcome back to another video on Spyro. Sorry there's been virtually nothing on the channel for the last week or so. For those who don't know, I'm still recovering from non-life-threatening but quite major surgery that I had on the 27th of November, and honestly, my energy levels are sapped. But I am getting better with each passing day, so yippee! Still, I want to thank everyone who supported me and patiently waited for new content, especially my Patreon people. I am so grateful that even with nothing happening on my channel, you continue to show your love and send me well wishes every day. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. Now to the topic on hand. Seeing as I've played through Spyro 1 Reignited twice now, once for the live stream and again for footage purposes, I thought it'd be fun to rank all the Spyro 1 realms from absolute crap to complete legend. So we will call this, Spyro 1 Reignited Realms ranked from worst to best. What an awful title. I will be partly basing my opinions on how the realm was in the original trilogy, but I won't be going to my list of favourite and least favourite realms. Those are videos I plan to do for Reignited at a later date. Instead, we'll use the original trilogy as a way to see what's changed, if anything, and whether for better or worse. This can include the realm design itself, the dragons you encounter and how they look and interact with Spyro, enemies, their designs and animations, and so on and so forth. Oh, and I won't be covering homeworlds, flights, the bonus realm, or even bosses for that matter. I did originally include bosses on this list, and had written a fair amount for each of them, but in the end, I thought it wasn't fair to include them when they offer less to the player than normal realms. Plus, my throat is still raw from having a tube shoved down it, and I don't have the energy to write the equivalent of War and Peace. Anyway, enough babbling, let us get into the video! So starting off the list at number 17, unless I've counted horribly wrong, it's gonna have to be Treetops. The main reason I've put Treetops right at the bottom is because of dodgy gameplay mechanics. Both times I played through this realm, I had issues. I will say that TFB have done a fantastic job in terms of design. What I once considered a fairly ugly realm with its big blocky brown trees and that off-putting green skybox now has one of the best backdrops in Reignited. Look at all those stars! The monkey enemies have translated well into HD too, now slightly less disturbing than they used to be. Slightly. Unfortunately, the biggest problem Treetops has lies in its fundamental mechanics, and if those don't work well, the realm will be a chore to navigate. Case in point, the supercharge ramp combos. Now, others I've spoken to agree that a lot of the jump and glide sections in Spyro 1 that were relatively simple before are a lot more difficult to land in Reignited. During my livestream of Treetops, it actually took me 6 attempts to make it to that notorious platform. 3 attempts were made trying to reach the first platform alone, 1 went on not quite reaching a supercharge ramp, the other not quite making the glide, and finally on the 6th attempt I did actually make it.
That was quite a ride, Spyro. You learned a lot since you were a young glider.
Yeah, well, you could have found an easier spot to get stuck.
I just don't see why they've made this aspect of the game so awkward. The challenge should come in trying to work out what exactly to do, and then making those sharp turns to each ramp, but not the jump and glide itself. When I came to record Treetops again for footage purposes, I did manage to do the jump and glide sequence in one go. And thinking I'd become a pro at Spyro stunts and that the worst of this realm was behind me, I patted myself on the back and continued on my merry way. Then came time to do that other supercharged jump in Treetops. So annoyingly, this one I didn't struggle with at all during my live stream. Well, unless you count me not remembering how to start it off, but whatever. When it came to recording the footage though, oh my gosh. 4 attempts. 1 admittedly because I had a brain fart and forgot which way to go, but 2 attempts were scuppered on this one little section of wall right here. I don't know whether the supercharge is less forgiving when turning, or it's the camera that likes to be right up Spyro's butthole and stops me from seeing so far ahead. But my goodness, was this annoying. You know what as well? Looking through my footage of the original Treetops, I never got to that last section of the realm via this route. I'd always go the way that I'm showing on the screen right now instead. But I tried going this way in Reignited's Treetops realm, and it was impossible. You just can't get enough height. I mean, yeah, on one hand I could applaud TFB for making the realm more challenging, on the other, I've already struggled with that first irritating jump, and by this point I just want to get the realm done. So adding in another awkward challenge on an already awkwardly designed realm is just... At number 16, it's going to be Noir Cove. Now this one I was actually going to put a bit higher because for some reason I thought the original was set during midday and they made a big change in Reignited by colouring the skybox to look like sunset. I thought it was daring of TFB to make such a change and was going to give points for that alone because, in my opinion, Noir Cove is a seriously ugly realm that needs all the help it can get. But now looking through my footage, I realise I just forgot what the original looks like on account of how boring it is, and in fact both the OG and Reignited versions are set at the same time of day. It's just the latter's skybox is a lot more orange. Given this newfound amazing knowledge, I kind of prefer the original skybox. The skyboxes aren't the only reason, of course, that this realm ranks so low. It just doesn't add anything new and exciting to Reignited in my opinion. Up until now, every realm I'd gone to had me tickled pink by the changes that TFB had managed to make while still keeping the tone of the original. But this version of Noir Cove feels like the exact same realm as before. Other realms in Reignited differentiate themselves from the originals by having, enemies with new looks or interesting animations. Here, the enemies are pretty much the exact same dudes you took on back in 1998 or whenever it was you played the original game. They don't have any fun little animations, at least I didn't see any. They just stand there throwing barrels or holding their wrenches menacingly. Actually, not even that, they just look bored. You can't even make out the big guy's glorious heart print underpants anymore. I mean, that in itself is a sin. There are a few nifty little details TFB have added, such as the label on the Norks helmets that reads Nasty Industries, and the battleship has some awesome graffiti work on it. But for me, it's just not enough to make Noir Cove stand out when there are so many better realms in Spyro 1 Reignited. Not even Thomas's mention of Spyro's stature can save this one.
Wow, I never thought I'd be rescued, especially by such a little dragon. What I mean is, I always believed in you, Spyro.
You gotta believe.
Moving on to number 15, and I'm going to have to choose Dry Canyon. I know you guys are probably thinking about my least favourite list right now, but trust me when I say I really wanted this realm to place a lot higher. And you know what? When Spyro first flew into that realm, it looked promising. It really did. It was lovely to see the addition of colours besides Bran, and I have to give a special mention to Ivor the Dragon. Not only have TFB kept his dialogue as hilarious as it was in the original game, but they've given him this awesome pilot look. He's got the flying hat and goggles, neck fur that resembles a bomber pilot's jacket, his tail's even shaped like the tail wing of a plane. It's wonderful and I love it. The other dragons are hilarious in their own ways too, but nothing beats Ivor. Unfortunately, the rest of the realm is fairly forgettable. Okay, maybe not forgettable, that isn't the right word. But if you had to think of a realm on the spot, chances are Dry Canyon wouldn't be the first that comes to mind, a problem that also plagued the original. At the end of the day, it is a realm based in a ravine. You can slap a few more shades of Bran and even some sandy yellow in there, but it ain't gonna change the fact I find Dry Canyon, and other desert-based realms for that matter, rather dull places to explore. So what else don't I like while I'm nitpicking? Oh yes, the enemies. Tragically born without a personality. I made a point when recording the game for footage purposes to take my time and observe the enemies' animations, both when idle and when engaging Spyro. Just like the enemies in Noir Cove, these guys really don't do anything exciting. The little Norks, who for some reason are green now instead of yellow, hide behind their shields before giving a slight chuckle and raising the shield to shoot their blunderbusses. Rinse and repeat. And the bird wranglers, oh, I was hoping for some interaction between them and their pet vultures. Maybe he could try to pet his bird but get bitten in the process. Or maybe the two have a good relationship and he gives the bird head scratches. Maybe after he's finished swinging the poor sod around, the bird could look a little bit dizzy. I don't know, just something extra, you know? The last thing that places Dry Canyon so low is another irksome jump and glide section. Again, this is something I never struggled with even as a kid, but here it cost me at least one life trying to make the glide. Seriously, what gives? Why do these platforming sections feel so much worse in Reignited? At number 14, we have High Caves. Now, when I first played through the Reignited version of this for the stream, I was excited about it. I was looking forward to seeing the creepy spiders, the blue wizards and tornado wizards duking it out, and of course, the adorable little fairies that save Spyro from a nasty fall. Playing it through for a second time, however, I have a few issues with it. The first being, I'm not a fan of the spiders. Not in a, oh, they creep me out kind of way. It's their design change. The original spiders had such a unique look, not really looking like spiders at all to be honest, more like giant freaky stag beetles. And it was quite obvious, even to Tiny Tot Tori, that they couldn't be killed with regular charge or flame abilities, due to being so large and having that shiny metal armour that I'd seen Norks wearing in previous realms. This, rather important point if you don't want to be nommed by hungry vicious spiders, isn't entirely obvious in the Reignited version. I mean, it's fine for me obviously because I played the original, and I know what to expect. But anyone going into Spyro 1 Reignited with no knowledge of these guys might assume they can be flamed normally, and then said player dies. Horribly. The other reason I don't like High Caves is because I find the place dull. I hate saying that word because someone always gets mad at me, but apart from the cave areas, which are fairly dark and creepy to explore, I'll admit, the rest of High Caves is kind of forgettable. I found using the supercharge ramp tedious when trying to reach those areas to the far right, and in the end, I just winged it and jumped from the side of the bridge with no supercharge. Which is stupid because I don't think that was even possible in the original. You had to use the supercharge to reach those sections. I could be wrong about that though, so don't forget to comment on how much of a dumbass I am for not knowing every detail of the Spyro games. Now, the number 14 spot was a toss-up between High Caves and Wizard Peak, but the reason I put this one lower is because of the dragons. With the exception of perhaps Cyrus and his candle fetish, the other two dragons suck. Ajax, I'm sorry dude, but you're a fugly sod, and Cedric has the personality of a cabbage. He used to be so animated when he talked about jumping and gliding. Now he just stands there like a nerd reading from his nerd book with his nerd glasses on. Nerd! It could also be the fact I miss Clancy Brown's over-the-top enthusiastic voice though.
Try combining supercharge with jumping and gliding, and really explore the High Caves.
If it wasn't obvious, number 13 is going to be Wizard Peak. Oh, like Dry Canyon, I really wanted to enjoy this realm, and given the only reason I hated it before was because of that one bloody wizard on that one bloody ledge, I thought it would fare much better this time around. Unfortunately, I have a few more reasons to gripe about this one. For starters, Reignited's Wizard Peak has the same issues with jumping and gliding as Treetops does, albeit less severe, hence why it's not right at the bottom of the list. That supercharged jump you need to do to get to the platform where the thief is took me a few attempts during my live stream, and if you know me well, you know I hate dying and backtracking for silly reasons. I just don't understand why TFB have made this mechanic so awkward. It's supposed to be fun to link up supercharged ramps and do one mega jump and glide, not a nail-biting experience as you say to yourself, maybe I'll make it this time. Okay, maybe on the next go? Now? My second reason for placing Wizard Peak so low, I hate the design of this place, I'm sorry but I do. None of it really stood out to me this time around. And while I wasn't a massive fan of the original, I could appreciate the purple and blue tones throughout. And of course, it's a snowy realm, which I usually love, but Reignited's version feels muted, greyish green, and just, I'm gonna say it again, dull. I suppose it is more realistic when the setting is the peak of a mountain, but I don't want realistic, I want fantasy. Couple in the fact the original didn't have me die multiple times on those bloody jumps, and you can see why I'm not a fan. I will say though, the dragons of Wizard Peak are fairly entertaining. Jarvis, the bird dragon thing, is adorable and quirky. Hexus, while he only says the cliched "thank you for releasing me" line, carries a cracking phoenix staff. And Lucas. Oh my gosh, Lucas, I love you. I get the impression somebody was a fan of Charizard or Dragonite when they designed this guy, because look at that colour scheme. And if you're very observant, you'll notice he has scribblings all over his wing membranes of directions to treasure. Given he's the one who tells Spyro about the secret Sunny Flight entrance, this makes his character all the more endearing, and makes Wizard Peak just that little bit better in my eyes. Moving on to number 12, and I'm going to have to choose Stone Hill. But you love that one, Tori. How could you? Well, like I said, I'm not going by my top 10 favourite and least favourite realms list. And also, as much as I do love this realm, and enjoyed seeing it in shiny HD, it doesn't offer a lot gameplay mechanic-wise to the player. I'm not saying it's boring to play and explore, but it is very basic. That does make sense given it's one of the first realms you visit, but seeing as we are comparing it to every other realm in the game, with other realms having so much more going for them, it's gonna have to sit here, I'm afraid. Now, the biggest gripe I have with Stone Hill is all the bloody grass hiding the gems. Admittedly, it's not the only realm to suffer with this problem, but it is the first I encountered it in. Don't get me wrong, I love having all that luscious grass in Reignited, but my goodness, the amount of times I'm missing 1 or 2 gems in a realm simply because I can't see it hiding in the shrubbery. This is an even bigger problem when you reach the upper half of Stone Hill, and if it wasn't for the fact I already knew the gems existed up here, and of course Sparks' awesome gem tracking ability, I'd struggle to find them. My last grippy grap with Stone Hill is the ram enemies. One thing I loved as a kid was watching those rams stand up on their hind legs and shrug. It's a silly little animation, I know, but it never failed to get a chuckle out of me, even when I played through the original as an adult multiple times. Unfortunately, TFB decided not to include that animation for the Reignited rams, which makes me a sad panda. They're still kind of funny, I guess, when they charge into Spyro and gloat, but it's not the same, man. At least the shepherds can still make me laugh. At number 11, it's going to be Twilight Harbor. I'm surprised this one made it as far down the list as it did. Now, as much as I tried, I couldn't avoid every spoiler before playing Reignited. And I caught wind of the fact the enemies of Twilight Harbor, who used to carry machine guns and grenades, now carry weird firearms that shoot purple goop, Splatoon anybody? And explosive barrels. Now, given how much I love the original Spyro Trilogy, and how much I hate it when games from my childhood get censored in some way, I thought I was going to be annoyed about these changes to the Nork's weapons. But you know what? After giving it some thought, I like it. I know Nasty's worlds are supposed to be these ugly, industrialised, dangerous realms, but I think the purple goop shooters are more in keeping to the style of Spyro 1. That being said, I'm still not a big fan of Twilight Harbor for various reasons. The aforementioned enemies don't have much personality, and spend most of their time just standing still waiting for Spyro to walk into range of their explosive barrels or goop shooters. Shoot your goo, my dude! And the realm design itself is hideous. But seeing as that is the point of Nasty's world, I'd say TFB succeeded in making Twilight Harbor faithful to its original look. I still hate it regardless, but I will give extra points for that amazing skybox. I don't know what the heck those cloud formations are supposed to be, but they look friggin' awesome. And that's all I've really got to say on that one, so moving on. At number 10, we have Town Square. Now personally, I'm a big fan of the revamped Town Square in terms of design and dragon encounters. But there were a few things that bugged me playing through this realm. Not major things, you know, but still things that made me go, So, design-wise, it's very similar to its original counterpart, but you can see TFB's own flair dotted about the place, such as in the architecture and the skybox. And look at the crazy bouncing chickens! Seriously, I love these guys. One of my favourite things about this realm, however, is the dragons. They're so colourful and creative. We have Niels, or Niles the sculptor, Devlin the baker with that glorious cake, Alvar and his sausages, and even Thor, who I'm assuming is supposed to be some sort of potter or clay person of whatever kind, but just comes across as a very old drunk guy. How can you not enjoy exploring this place? Well, as much as I love Town Square, I can find a fault or two with it. For starters, this was the first realm in Reignited that made me realise that jumping and gliding wasn't quite as smooth as it used to be. Now, I didn't struggle with it so much playing through a second time, but during my live stream, it took me a few attempts to get round this corner, and I was getting a little bit narked to say the least. My other teeny tiny little gripe was with the egg thief, but this was more down to me being crap at the game than a problem with the mechanics itself. Stand still so I can kill you! Being annoyed at an egg thief and struggling with a short, non-lethal jump, however, isn't enough to run this realm into the ground, but at the same time, it is one of the smallest realms to navigate, and in some people's eyes, a little boring, hence why I've put it here. Moving on to number 9, and it's gonna be Cliff Town. So getting straight into it, it's not a bad realm to explore, but certain changes, or lack of, have stopped me from giving it a better spot on the list. Not to mention, as great as it does look, it didn't impress me as much as other realms when I compared them to their original versions. I will say though, I love what TFB have done with the backdrop. We now have sandy dunes rather than an orange void of nothing. But on the other hand, the realm does look more deserty than it did before, and you guys know.
I don't like sand.
In the original realm, I always got the impression we were high up above the clouds, perching on some sort of mesa. To be fair, if this is the case, the reignited version of Cliff Town is more accurate in that regard, but it doesn't feel as grand. If I fell off here, I don't see why Spyro would die, when he could just glide safely down to the sand dunes. I mean, what is that, like 40 feet? The dude has wings, he'll be fine. Whereas a fool from the original Cliff Town? Now that looks deadly. And while the enemies are pretty hilarious and faithful to the original game, I'm not a fan of the dragons. The only one I vaguely remember is Marco, and that's really only because he has those awesome steampunk wings. Also, did you know there's 2 other characters in the Spyro trilogy that are called Marco? How weird is that? As I said, it's not a bad realm in terms of design and exploration, so I think putting it at about the halfway mark is fair. At number 8, I'm going to go with Lofty Castle. Now, I thought this was going to be one of my top 5s at least, because the original Lofty Castle was heaven for me. Beautiful, serene, otherworldly, and of course there's all those evil Cupid creatures disturbing the peace, because what's heaven without the devil trying to destroy it? After playing through Reignited's Lofty Castle, however, I think there are worthier realms for the top 5 spots. It's not bad by any means, but I feel like TFB played this one safe when it came to design. If you take a gander at both the original and reignited versions side by side, apart from some extra grass, there isn't much difference between them. And what the heck is with those celestial bodies? Why are they just round, smooth circles in the sky? Give me some craters, or at least show the dark side of the moons. Next up on the chopping board is the Nork Balloonists. I loved these guys in OG Spyro Reignited, but here they look so fed up. And not in a hilarious grumpy cat sort of way, more a nasty Nork doesn't pay me enough to care if I die kind of way. Remember how happy they used to be before Spyro sent them to their deaths down below? I know, Petty Tory is petty, but it's my list. I'm zoned out on meds and I'll complain about what I want, darn it. Fortunately, Lofty Castle does have a saving grace in the form of its dragons, with special mention given to Mudada. Oh my gosh, you chubby little cutie. I mean, look at his design! Plushy wings, horns, tail ornament, and a friggin' fairy doll to cuddle. You cannot hate this guy, and if you do, Satan has already taken your soul. At number 7, we have Terrace Village. Hey, it's not the worst anymore. It's more than halfway down the list. Now, I know by this point you guys probably think I've gone completely bonkers, but hear me out on this one. I think TFB have done an amazing job giving this realm some much needed life and artistic style, especially for a Beastmaker's realm. The original version, in my opinion, was hideous to look at and generally forgettable, a point I made very clear in my least favourite realms list. While it's still not a personal favourite of mine, Terrace Village has a few more things going for it this time around. One of the first things you might notice when arriving here is the no skydiving sign placed at the edge of the realm. This might not mean a lot to some people, but if anybody remembers the original Terrace Village, you'll probably get the joke. To fill in those unaware, the old realm had a strange design in which the entire area seemed to be perched atop a weird green platform, which itself was perched atop a void of nothingness. I never really understood the design, and the area felt as if you were travelling through Tomb Raider 2's floating islands. It was so odd. It seems that TFB have played on this, and added the no skydiving signs as a little joke for us players who remember the old realm design. Actually, that might not be the joke at all, but that's what I like to think it is. Then there's the design of Terrace Village itself. Whereas Insomniac Games opted for a muddy palette of browns and greys, TFB decided on a cooler green tone throughout the realm, which makes Terrace Village much more pleasing to the eye. And look up above! Ooh-wee! We even have auroras floating through the sky for that extra bit of flair. The architecture isn't too bad either. What I once criticised for being too similar in appearance to Clifftown now has its own unique look, complete with glowing green windows, gold plating, and that wooden rickety crookedness you'd expect from a Beastmaker's realm. And then we move on to the enemies. While I was hoping for a bit more animation from them, they're definitely an improvement on the original Terrace Village Norks, with particular mention given to the smaller enemies standing on the electric platforms, who headbang on occasion. Rock on, my dude! And of course I have to mention the dragon Cyprin, in awe at the size of this lad. Absolute unit. I can imagine myself having a moment, cuddling that belly like Dr. Grant did with the Triceratops in Jurassic Park. I like cuddly bellies. So with all this praise, you'd think Terrace Village would be higher up on the list, but I don't think it has quite enough going for it compared to other realms. I won't pass judgment on it for being a swamp-based level because TFB have done a stellar job making it stand out to its predecessor, but if you break it down, we still only have the electricity mechanic to avoid and a bit of gliding here and there to set off some fireworks. Another reason why I think of it as the poor man's Clifftown. But yeah, it's a definite improvement over 1998 Terrace Village, so TFB, I applaud you. Bravo. Bravo. Moving on to number 6, and we have Dark Hollow. See, this is why I'm terrible at writing these lists. I'll put one realm lower down because it's too short, then put another one higher up on the list even though it has the same problem. But I think Dark Hollow deserves this spot because it has that wow factor. It was the first realm I visited during my live stream, which might explain why I remember it so well and hold it in such high regard. And looking at it, can you blame me? Absolutely gorgeous, darling. Bear in mind that I always preferred Stone Hill over Dark Hollow, so I'm impressed this one swayed me as much as it did. Just look at that wacky hedge maze and tower in the background for starters. Don't you want to just head on over there and get lost for a few hours? You know what it reminds me of as well? The Asylum Grounds level in Medieval that's basically one big hedge maze with riddles. Now, Medieval was one of my favourite games growing up, and that was one of my favourite levels to boot. So I have to thank TFB and their Dark Hollow realm for bringing back such happy memories for me. Ah. Yes, it's not the longest realm in the game due to it being more a tutorial level, if anything else, but it has so much charm and personality in its design, enemies, and dragons that I can't help but love it. Special mention given to the big fat Norks with buckets on their heads, who occasionally take bites out of their drumstick club things. Oh man, that looks tasty. We're at the top 5 now, and at number 5 it's going to be Ice Cavern. There's a few reasons I love this realm, but I have to mention the one thing that stood out to me when I played Reignited's Ice Cavern on my live stream, the skybox. So as I'm sure I've said 1,000 times over and you're all bored of hearing by now, I've fully completed the original Spyro Trilogy more times than I can count. But this was honestly the first time I ever realised Ice Cavern was in fact an open cave with a skybox. And in Reignited, what an absolutely gorgeous skybox it is. I don't know how I never noticed it. Maybe it's because OG Ice Cavern's skybox is rather bland in comparison, but ooh-wee was I amazed when I first turned up here in Reignited. And you know what? To come back to a game you love and notice something you never saw before, the astonishment you feel just cannot be described. And of course, Ice Cavern wins points because it's a snowy realm. Yay, we love snow! Well, I love snow. I'll take fluffy mittens, scarves and hats on a chilly day over stripping down until I want to peel my own skin off because of the heat. Thank you very much. Speaking of fluffy hats, just look at these idiots. I love them. I really love them. The nose rub, the bicep flex, the bodybuilder pose, cracking stuff. TFB, I need more of this in the enemies of Reignited. It's hilarious to see and it makes the trilogy so much more memorable. Give me dem idle animations. Moving on to number 4, we have Haunted Towers. Oh man, there was so much I loved about revisiting this place. It's still got those adorable smooching fairies, and everybody knows I'm partial to a little bit of fairy magic. And they're even cuter in Reignited than they were in the original game. Technically, yes, High Caves also has a smooching fairy, but in my opinion, Haunted Towers makes much more use out the fairy's kiss, as you need its super flame granting abilities to progress through every part of Haunted Towers, rather than just one section. Plus, no ugly spiders here, so yay! And look at all the little details on the suits of armour found throughout the realm. They now have an eerie green glow about them once brought to life by the wizards. And even when inanimate, you can see hints of magic pulsating off the metal. I love this addition because it gives me such a sense of unease. I mean, obviously I know the suits of armour come to life via magic, but imagine playing Haunted Towers for the first time ever, not knowing what to expect, and then seeing that green glow pulsating off that empty suit of armour. Creepy. And then there are the 3 dragons. Oh boy. Kosoko has that gorgeous purple, blue and black colour scheme, and a starry woolen sock on his tail, so we know he's definitely a cool guy. I mean, only cool guys wear starry woolen socks, right? Lutalo brings the drama when he talks about Nasty Nork with utter contempt.
Patience, little one. You'll soon have the opportunity to battle the one who matters most. Nasty Nork.
And do I even need to tell you why Capano is so amazing? Just look at him, he's adorable! There is one element of Haunted Towers that could have brought it down, that awkward to reach section everybody spends a good 5 minutes cursing about. Sure, it can be a doozy to work out what to do to reach the platform, but unlike Reignited's treetops, where the difficulty comes in not only understanding the route, but trying to connect each ramp and make that final jump and glide, the only hard part of this daring manoeuvre is working out what to do in the first place. It's quite faithful to the original, thankfully, and I'm going to give praise to TFB for not messing this one up. At number 3, it's going to be Dark Passage. You know what? Going into this one having avoided as many spoilers as I could, and having virtually no knowledge on the design, enemies, dragons and so on, I still knew I was going to love it. When I think of Dreamweavers, this is usually the first realm that comes to mind, and TFB have done an absolutely fantastic job on every aspect of it. So let's talk about the first thing you see as you arrive in Dark Passage. Those devil dogs and armoured turtles' monstrous forms. Look at them! Just look! I honestly didn't think it was possible to make them any more terrifying than they originally were, but TFB somehow managed it. The devil dogs alone with their hellfire mouths and pointy teeth are enough to give me nightmares. But the good kind of nightmare, you know? Like the, oh boy, this is horrifying kind. And then they change back to their normal forms and oh, they're so cute. Then there's the design of Dark Passage. The twisted walls and architecture, the foreboding tunnels, and those odd pink petals scattered all over the floor. Are they petals? Magical residue maybe? I'm not 100% sure what they are, but it definitely adds to the enchanting vibe that's so prevalent in all the Dreamweavers realms. The dragon designs aren't too bad either, with particular mention given to Cassia. I have no idea what he's supposed to be, but I'm thinking Beaver Dragon. Yeah, LSD Beaver Dragon. Even Azizi with his one line leaves an impression when you take the time to look at him. Do you think he likes stars? Overall, I adored Dark Passage, and even though I did the exact same thing in Reignited as I did in the original, i.e. spent half the time getting lost, going the wrong way, or struggling to find that one last gem, I honestly didn't mind, because another minute spent here is another minute I get to enjoy this dreamlike fantastical realm, or nightmare-like in this case, you know what I mean. And the runner-up at number 2 will be Alpine Ridge. Unlike Dark Passage, which I knew I was going to enjoy before even seeing it and couldn't wait to explore, Alpine Ridge never really crossed my mind on first playthrough of Reignited. The original is okay, but it's one of those realms where I go, oh yeah, that one. So imagine my surprise when Spyro flew his little butt into Reignited's Alpine Ridge and I saw it for the first time. In fact, I will show you my reaction right here. Oh my gosh. Oh wow, bear with me guys. Oh, it looks awesome. Now, normally the mountain realms of Magic Crafters are a bit hit and miss for me. Wizard Peak, as you guys know, isn't my favourite, and High Caves, while it was interesting in some places, didn't have enough going for it to keep me entertained throughout. Alpine Ridge, however, awesome. For starters, look at the exchange between the armoured druid here and the big yellow beast. Even though I'm seconds away from murdering them with extreme prejudice, their interactions together are so cute that I have to take the time to appreciate the animation. Also, is that Wumpa Fruit from the Crash games? And the beasts themselves, oh boy do they look menacing! While I would have liked them to keep their original ear-piercing roar, at least they still have that wild arm flailing thing they do. And look at that floppy tongue! Honestly, if they weren't trying to kill me, I'd take one home as a pet. This was always my favourite Magic Crafters realm for the terrain manipulation magic the druids used to slow down Spyro. But at times, it could be quite difficult to overcome these obstacles, particularly this part. Luckily, TFB have slowed down these mechanics a little bit, at least I thought they were slower, which is good because it gives first time and younger players the chance to enjoy what the realm offers, rather than falling to their deaths over and over as the druids literally take the floor away from them. I also have to give props to Reignited's Alpine Ridge for genuinely spooking or creeping me out a couple of times. I know, getting scared at a Spyro game. It's a tragic life I lead. But when you see that beast flailing his arms, and you jump off the safety of your platform, and he suddenly belly flops on top of you in less than a second, ah! And there's something menacing about watching the armoured druid riders slowly walk towards you after you kill their beast. I know they did this in the original too, but it's just so much creepier to watch here and I love it. And lastly, I want to point out dragons once again, because TFB really outdid themselves with the dragons' appearances and mannerisms here in Alpine Ridge. I honestly couldn't say who's my favourite. Zane with his crippling fear of the beasts? Eldred in his alchemist apparel? Xander with his crystalline wings and horns? Or even Kelvin and his hoity-toity eccentric way of talking? Take your pick, they're all good. And finally, moving on to number 1, it's of course Misty Bog. A Beastmaker's realm in the number 1 spot?
What a twist!
No, don't worry, I'm not as mad as a box of attack frogs. TFB's take on Misty Bog is actually quite impressive, and in my opinion, provides the right balance of exploration and challenge without being too easy or too tough. Other realms were either so simple that I erased them from my memory until I looked back through my footage, such as Noir Cove, or much too difficult, taking the fun out of the realm and replacing it with utter frustration. Cough cough treetops. But Misty Bog has that perfect balance, something which it didn't actually have in the original game. 1998 Misty Bog was a bloody nightmare for me, and I'm sure a lot of you that also played the original would agree that aspects of it, such as the jump and glide sections to the tree stumps, or that notorious room of attack frogs and Nork dudes, were incredibly frustrating. TFB seemed to have toned it down. At least when I played through the realm, I didn't have anywhere near as many issues as I used to. And speaking of enemies, take a gander at their designs, particularly the dragon-eating plants. I didn't think these guys could be any creepier, but nope, TFB somehow managed to add more nightmare fuel to the fire. Now they shake from further away, and seem to move a lot faster when charging at Spyro. I didn't want to sleep tonight anyway, it's fine game. Meh. Then we have the environmental design of Misty Bog. Oh my gosh. I never thought I'd say wow to a Beastmaker's realm of all things, but TFB have really pulled out all the stops here. For starters, there's no more hideous, plain, baby-sick coloured skybox with a few wooden poles in the background. I actually get the feeling that I am in a Misty Bog now. And look at all the detail. The water, rocks, swampy trees and vegetation. I love it. Then there are areas such as the small cave you fall into near the end of the realm. I'll put both the original and reignited version up on the screen so you can see the difference. I know it seems like an insignificant thing to get excited about, but seeing the care and attention to detail TFP have put into this cave, into most of Spyro 1 for that matter, it just shows how much passion they have for remaking these realms, and for that, I am so very grateful to them for reigniting my passion for Spyro. See what I did there? Anyway, that's my list of the Spyro 1 Reignited Realms ranked from worst to best. Goodness, that title sucks. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and once again, I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to get a video out to you. I will try and get more content out to you over the next few weeks though, which will hopefully help me get back into the swing of things. So, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like as it really helps me out. And before I go, shout out to my biggest Patreon supporters, Razak, Zugador, Austin Rosenbaum, Thomas Hinton, Ross Ward, Frosty Dragon, Connor Strange, Klaxon, and Jeffrey Yoshi Thomas. Thank you so much for watching guys, and I'll see you in whatever I play or talk about next. Bye bye!